This is Professor Arif Harikar once again. And let me tell you, this time I took a trip to Jakarta, the capital city of Indonesia, and I was totally stunned, overwhelmed, enthralled. There was so much happening in Indonesia. Economically, it was flourishing. Let me take you to a small city called Bandung. Bandung is not very far. Of course, one can travel by car, and of course, now they also have the bullet train. But let's talk about Bandung. Bandung has a lot of historical importance. We can stretch out to the 1810 when it was actually discovered. It came into being. Bandung is the capital of the provincial capital of Java. And I was so amazed by the city. It was just a one-day trip, but it really mattered. It has so much. We can talk about so many ancient things in Bandung. Of course, the rulers, the occupation of Bandung was under the hands of the Dutch, and they've stayed here for a long time. We can see the glimpses of their occupation of Bandung. We can see the script, we can see the old Purnama is one of the coffee shops that I've seen, and this is still going on. 100 years later, you can see the rush. So they're maintaining their heritage. This is what is so important when one travels to a city like Bandung. It has a pleasant climate, these are tropical countries, and it has tea plantation. It has a history that dates back to many, many years ago, decades and hundreds of centuries. So the important thing is that this was under the Dutch control, and then we come to and during the Dutch control, things were very good. The Dutch were quite pleasant, and they behaved very well with the local people. But then came the Second World War, 1939, and from then onward, 3 years of occupation by the Japanese is reportedly not very pleasant. They, of course, upgraded. They improved on the military strength, military potential of the Indonesian army and the navy. But they were very strong. This was the time when Hiroshima was being bombed. And then they were there in the South China Sea, which was such an important area, strategic area. They were here for the oil. They were here to stay for a couple of years. Their army was so strong, it demolished the local Dutch, the navy. The local Dutch navy was absolutely demolished in almost like 24 to 48 hours, as I've heard. And then the Japanese, but of course they were unpleasant because they used forced labor. They were not very helpful to the labor class. But then we do hear that they did improve on the technology of the military, the Indonesian military. So running through this place with occupation of various regimes in the world, the Dutch, the Mongols, very, very ancient, of course, and then you have these Chinese. The Chinatown, of course, I had a chance to go to the Chinatown with my very apt and very knowledgeable English-speaking guide who was my taxi driver. I was with my family, and we absolutely, just in an hour's time, he was able to upgrade us. He was able to enhance our knowledge of the history of Bandung. So from the coffee shops, from the two-wheel cart vehicles that were plying in Bandung. Now, the very famous city that was actually the main street of Bandung was the Braga Street, and Braga Street was famous because it had a lot of activity, and it had, in those days, the two-wheelers, carts were used for coffee trade. Coffee was being exported, tea was being exported, and this place is stunning. Be with me as I go along, take you through the streets, show you some of the glimpses in the scripts from the past, from the Dutch era, and hope you've enjoyed. This is a short video of a very beautiful little provincial capital, Bandung, which is not very far. You can take a bullet train, you just gets you into Jakarta in just half an hour at 350 kilometers an hour. Then, of course, you can also drive, which is not very unpleasant, with very, very good motorways. Hope you've enjoyed this short video on Bandung, the historical provincial capital. Do subscribe to our channel. We are always there to help you, and you can help us by throwing in a comment or a note so that we improve on our next video. Do strike the like icon. Thank you.